We're now moving on to news coming in. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is addressing Parliament.
Change being the face of continuity, and the polls suggest that nothing has worked. Given that your party is continuing to take lumps out of each other, and indeed lumps out of you, is it time for you to say to them explicitly to put a sock in it?
Well, the Conservative Party last night demonstrated that they're completely united in wanting to stop the boats. And this bill passed with an overwhelming majority in Parliament. But more broadly, last year was difficult. It's difficult for the country. We're still recovering from the impacts of COVID, the legacy of backlogs in our public services, also the impact of the war in Ukraine on people's bills. But at the start of this year, we are pointing in the right direction, and we have made progress. And that's why we've got to stick to the plan, because that's how we'll deliver the long-term change that the country needs. That's how we'll build a brighter future for our children and renewed pride in our country. And the plan is working. And you can just look at what's happened on inflation, for example. We set out a clear plan. We've delivered on that plan. And because inflation has been halved from 11% to 4%, we're now able to cut people's taxes. So just the other week, a significant tax cut for tens of millions of people in work, worth £450 for someone on £35,000. So that shows that the plan is working. And if we stick to the plan, we can deliver that positive change for the country. That the alternative is that we just go back to square one, because that's all the Labour Party are offering. Keir Starmer hasn't said what he would do differently. He's had 4 years to set out a plan, and he hasn't, and that won't make anything better. And that's why our plan is the right one, and we're going to keep on it and deliver for the country. Next, I turn to ITV.
Prime Minister Robert Heston. When you announced a year ago your pledge to stop the boats, the British people didn't think that meant reduce them. They thought that meant reduce them to negligible levels by the general election. That's not now going to happen, is it? And then overnight we've seen more strikes on Houthi missile sites by America. How worried are you that the conflict in the Middle East is widening and deepening?
Thank you, Robert. The British people will obviously judge the progress we're making, but I'm actually proud of the progress that we've made tackling this issue. I always said, when I made that first speech, I think you were there, I said, look, this is a difficult problem. Right? It's not going to be solved overnight. There's not one single silver bullet that will fix it. But I'm a Prime Minister who wants to take on the biggest challenges that we face as a country, even if they are difficult, even if they will take time to fix, because that's what leadership is about. I'm not going to take the easy way out. And if you look at our track record, for the first time, the number of small boat arrivals into this country went down. It went down by over a third last year. That didn't happen by accident. It happened because we put a lot of work in and we made a lot of decisions. We've increased the number of illegal enforcement raids by 70%. We're starting to close the bank accounts of 7,000 people who shouldn't be here. We returned 20,000 people back to their own countries last year. We created new deals with France, with Turkey, to smash the gangs upstream. And all of that has meant that we can reduce the numbers and that we can show that we're making progress on this issue. But I'm also clear that the only long-term solution to this problem is to have a deterrent. And that's why the Rwanda scheme is so important. We know that deterrence works because we've implemented it with Albania. Our new deal with Albania means that if you come here illegally from there, you will be returned. We returned over 5,000 people last year, and what do you know? The numbers coming from Albania dropped by 90%. And that's what Rwanda will allow us to do more broadly, and that's why it's so important that we pass this bill. So look, I believe we have made progress on this issue, real progress. But I want to stick to the plan. That plan is working, as I've demonstrated. And if we stick to the plan, we'll be able to deliver the change that people want, which is proper security of our borders, an end to the unfairness of illegal migration, an end to spending millions of pounds on hotels. The alternative is that we go back to square one. Right? And that was clear yesterday, and you talked about the debate. The Labour Party have offered no alternative, no plan to tackle this problem. And actually worse than that, you know, when Keir Starmer has been asked about this, he's been asked about the Rwanda scheme specifically, and it's been put to him, even if it's working and reducing numbers, would you still scrap it? And he said yes. Right? So that's the choice. Right? Our plan that's working, stick with it, we can deliver the change, or you just go back to square one. And on your other question, just briefly on the Houthis, I want to try and take as many as I can. Look, as I've said in Parliament earlier, the situation is concerning. The rise in attacks on commercial shipping is both illegal and causing enormous disruption to the global economy and putting innocent lives at risk. It was right that we took action to protect both interests and lives, and together with allies, we've been very clear in our condemnation of their behaviour, and will continue to urge them to desist from carrying out what are illegal attacks and putting innocent people's lives at risk. Next, can we go to Sky?